Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Tommy, and once again, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Angel.
Hi, welcome back, and I am feeling better.
So oddly enough, I feel like I have a cold again.
Oh no, I
So
must
it's
have
like we're
passed it
so
on to you
chilly.
through the internet.
Right. I think it's because Greg works at a school, so it's like I get sick and then he gets what I have, or he gets something from the kids and then he gives it to me. So we're just in like this vicious cycle.
Oh yeah, that's how I got sick. I work at a school, so
um, so anyway, we're back covering Port Charles' Tainted Love. We're in week 5, and things really got exciting this week, at least for me. I don't know about for you.
mm. No, it did for me too.
So I'll roll the credits and we'll jump right into it. So I don't know, every episode it just felt almost primetime worthy. Like I just feel like big things were happening every
Hmm.
episode. I was like, whoa, oh shit. Like, and I think this is why I fell in love with it. I think I came in. No, I watched it from the beginning, but I didn't watch the whole thing. It was weird. I can't really remember that summer too well. um, but we open with Gabby setting up a romantic candlelit, not even dinner, just a candlelit like seduction scene for her and
Hmm.
Caleb. And she hopes that he'll come tonight. There's a knock at the door, and she thinks it's him, but it's Joe, and she's disappointed. Poor Joe. um, Allison wakes Chris up with smelling salts because last we saw Jack was strangling him and he tried to bite him. Um, by the water, Caleb and Jack fight over Livy, and Caleb says Olivia is his destiny, and she's gonna be his bride.
Mm.
Joe says he's leaving tonight, and she owes him at least a conversation about what happened between them. He assumes that the candles are not for him.
Hmm.
I feel really bad because it's not her fault, but
Yeah,
she's very like, yeah, so like leave because like you don't want to see Caleb when he arrives.
it's like it's like leave, please leave.
He's like, oh, it's for the man that you met once and you don't even know his name. um, Jack wants to meet him, and she says that's not a good idea. And they basically, it was a shitty end to their relationship because the poor guy, he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, Jack says he'll kill Caleb, and Caleb says, did he forget about him being a vampire? And he can't kill him, and he shows his teeth again.
Because
And now we're actually saying the word vampire
uh-huh.
a lot this week.
Vampire.
Like we ripped the band-aid off, and now we have no secrets.
No more secrets.
um, Caleb tells him he was the one watching him that night that he and Livy went to on the camping trip, or not trip, but went camping by the water when
Hmm.
Jack went missing for like a little bit. So I feel like I got a lot of answers this week, like things that I had been questioning that I was unclear about, like in past weeks. I feel like we got flashbacks, we got explanations. This was the first instance because we actually got to see what wasn't shown in Time in a Bottle
Hmm.
of Jack and Caleb meeting by the water and Caleb biting him,
Hmm.
which, okay, I'm going with, but I also feel like we weren't made aware of any like marks on his neck when he was passed out.
Yeah, we weren't. We weren't. We weren't.
But I'll go with it. Um, Caleb explains how he mixed his blood with Jack's, and he's halfway to being immortal. He welcomes Jack to the family. I was eating this up with a spoon. I love
Yes.
vampires. I was just like, oh my
Yes. Yes.
god. Joe tries to get through to Gabby by telling her he loves her, and he forces a kiss on her. We find out that the blood transfusion is what satisfied Jack's hunger, and that's why he was
Mhm,
acting normal after he had it. So again, another answer where we were kind of
mhm,
like, "What happened?" um, Caleb tells him he needs to kill to become a full vampire.
mm.
Now, is that like a mystical thing? Do you think? Like he has to go through the process of killing somebody because like he's drinking blood that we see throughout the week. That doesn't do it.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's like, a ritual.
Like you actually have to take someone's life, and then
Yeah.
like a mystical thing happens.
Mhm.
I don't know. We're trying to make sense of something that's not real, but I just want to know like the universe's logic.
Or, what the writers were thinking of that day.
Right. um, Caleb disappears when Allison comes rushing in and finds Jack with Livy unconscious. I forgot Livy was laying there the whole time.
Yeah, me too. And I love where Caleb kept, like, disappearing, reappearing, disappearing, reappearing.
Right.
Jack turns around, "Oh my god, Caleb! Oh, ooh."
And I also kind of wondered, maybe it's because he wasn't feeding because he was locked up in the basement. But I was like, if he could do that, why couldn't he just like disappear out of the basement and be outside?
Yeah, wait a minute.
But maybe because, like I said, maybe because Michael had him locked up, he wasn't feeding, so he was weaker.
Mhm,
Kind of
mhm.
like how Jack is kind of weak because he's not feeding.
Yeah.
Um, Jack tells Allison to get out of there, and they wake Livy magically wakes up just as like Caleb's gone and Allison appears. I'm like, oh, hey girl, because I forgot she was laying there. um, they leave, even though Livy's like, no, I want to be with Jack. I want to help you. Like, why are you pushing me away? But they leave, and Jack screams that he knows Caleb is still there. And he reappears, and he says he wants Jack to join him.
Mm.
Jamal visits an occult shop, and he tells the worker basically what happened to Jack. Like, he just tells him the story about, like, he died, and then he busted through the coffin, and he calls Jack a zombie. And the worker's like, oh, zombies aren't real. And so
That's
Jamal's like, oh, okay, good. He's like, but what you're describing is a vampire.
I got a good laugh out of
And
that.
Jamal's like, ah, shit. Gabby pushes Joe off of her face, and he struggles with her, and she cuts him. Caleb tells Jack he could be his protege and someone to hang out with. He could have anything he wants except Olivia. Jack says that's not going to happen, and Caleb says then he'll die. Jack says going over a cliff didn't kill him, and neither will he. And Caleb once again is like, I made you. Like, I could destroy you.
Oh, I made you. I can destroy you.
Like, you are nothing without me.
You're nothing without me.
He's Regina George. So that was all in one episode. Very exciting, like 20
Yeah.
minutes. um, so Gabby now tries sucking the blood from Joe's cut.
Mhm. She's like, "Oh my gosh," and then she goes.
He freaks out, and this is their last scene together,
Yeah.
and that's pretty shitty. Gabby seems to have like the taste of the blood though, because she's very like
Mhm.
content. uh, Caleb says it was a mistake to think Jack would be useful to him, so now his time is up. He exposes his teeth, and Jack says, "Do your worst." And Livy runs up and screams Jack, and Caleb disappears. Jack wants her to leave and tells her there's something he has to handle. He says he needs time and to go with Allison and that he loves her. So that's good. That he's like, even though
Mhm.
he's acting weird and she thinks he's pushing her away, he kind of reassures her that he loves her. He just needs to deal with something, even though he's
Yeah.
not telling her what it is. Um, Jamal storms into Jack's room and demands Jack tell him he's not a vampire. And Jamal asks Jack to fill in the blanks, and Jack tells him he met Caleb, and he told him that he hunted him down, and that's when Caleb hit him, and he was unconscious in the woods. Jamal says Caleb is the guy Livy mentioned, and Jack has a shot of pain rushing through him. Earlier we had seen Jamal in the at the hospital, but we really didn't get like a clear like reason why he was there. He just said
Yeah.
he could get answers or something to explain what's happening to Jack.
Mhm.
So this is when we find out that he actually stole blood bags
Was
for
it
Jack,
blood bags or just a blood bag?
or a blood bag.
I felt like it was just one.
Yeah. So while Jack is going through the pain, Jamal rips out the blood bag that he took from the hospital, which that hospital needs better security.
Yeah, right?
um, he wants to see if it'll prove Jack is a vampire. Where am I? Oh, Caleb comes to see Gabby, and she says she knew that he would come.
Mhm.
She says she doesn't even know his name, and he tells her, Caleb. And she says it's so hot tonight, and he takes like an ice cube out of her cup and he puts it around her lips. And I gotta give it to the actress. She really committed to this.
Yeah,
Her
she
this
did.
lustful like thrall that she can't control. Like she was in
Mhm.
it.
Like, that's like Gabby is probably one of my favorite parts about Tainted Love.
I thought I was gonna get. Well, I did kind of get an answer, but I thought they were gonna have sex. Like I thought
Mhm.
he was just gonna use her as like an interim until he could get to Livy.
Yeah. I mean, he kinda does, but not, like, in the way not
I
like
mean,
in,
she
like
wants it. She wants it
yeah.
bad. But then he just bites her. Well, do they kiss? No, I don't think they kiss. But he kind of leans in and he bites her. So then I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, is he just gonna use her as like lunch, like a snack? And I felt bad for her. Um, and she has her moments where you could see her jealousy for Livy
Mhm.
because poor girl, she can't help it. But Caleb
Mhm.
keeps telling her, "You're not the one." Like,
You're not the one. It is Livy.
ugh, and she just can't help herself. Oh, I feel so bad.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, so he bit her. Jamal wants Jack to drink the blood, but Jack says he won't, and he doesn't want it. He doesn't need it. But he turns his back, and he seems to have given the blood. Well, he drank it. He didn't give it a taste. He drank
Yeah, he drank it, yep.
it, and now he appears to be fine. Uh, Lucy is home alone, and she reiterates that it's a hot night, so she opens the
Mhm.
window, and she gets like a weird feeling.
Uh-huh.
So she calls Kevin, and I laughed because she says, I'm just here by myself, hydrating my pores. Get a face mask on. And she's reading her tarot cards and watching like infomercials. That was RuPaul, right?
That was RuPaul, yep.
Because the voice sounded familiar. I'm not used to seeing RuPaul without big hair. Her hair was a little flat, and she was
Mhm.
a tarot card reader or a psychic for an infomercial.
Yeah, I forgot what RuPaul's they mentioned in the credits. RuPaul
Alita,
is RuPaul
Madam
Charles.
Alita.
No, I'm talking
Oh,
about
they
the
showed her.
Yeah, they credit RuPaul, and it's RuPaul Charles. That's in case you don't know the
Okay,
full name of
yeah.
RuPaul.
Mhm. I thought that was cool. I never knew that she made an appearance on Port Charles. Did we
I
actually
feel
get to see
I
her
kind
in
of did.
person?
But I thought it was. I kind of did, but I thought it was pre-arcs. But I think it was. But it was Tainted Love. So
It's so interesting the jobs that people will take because like she's been in movies, she's had her own talk show.
mhm.
I mean Lucy is supposed to be meeting up with her. I don't know if they actually show her in person or if that was just like a cameo on TV.
I think it's a
Um,
cameo. But I feel like I remember more though that like RuPaul had more of a presence on Port Charles.
really?
I don't know. maybe just like maybe it's slightly more. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but I feel like RuPaul had a little bit more of a presence than like the TV.
Okay. Well, her name is Madame Alicia, I
Madame
think.
Alicia. Yep.
Um, Caleb returns to the basement and opens a chest and is angry. Michael runs down asking what's wrong, and he says Michael let that whore wear Olivia's wedding dress.
Ooh, why do you always gotta do that to Eve? First, it was the guy from Fate.
Right.
Then before that, we found out that Eve used to be a prostitute. I think it was Bennett Devlin. Oh my gosh, poor Eve. She's just trying to be. She's just trying to live like the rest of us.
So that answered another one of my like unclear questions from last week. Remember, I was like, that dress looks familiar. The cut looks like the dress that
Hmm.
Livy wears, and I wonder how they get it back. Well, we find out this week.
Yep.
um, at the cabin, Ian and Eve feel the baby kick. Uh, Jamal wonders how Jack feels, and he's disgusted he drank blood, but he feels fine now. Jamal says now they know, and they can try and figure out what they can do to fix this. Jack says now that he knows, he's afraid to be around Livy because he doesn't want to hurt her. And he mentions Caleb's name, but he's cut off because Livy says, "How do you know Caleb?" That's because that's the guy that's been stalking her, for
Hmm.
lack of better words. um, where is it? Oh, Caleb says the dress is ruined because Eve wore it. And Michael says he'll get the dress back. But Caleb goes to leave, and he says he's going to kiss the bride.
Oh no.
And I like the whole that he does. And honestly, I love this whole back and forth. I was like, wow, Michael Easton's best scene partner is himself. Like,
Yeah, basically, yeah.
and that's when I was like, and they both look so good.
They really do.
He looks really good in glasses. I'm just gonna say it.
Hmm.
um, Michael threatens him by, he's like, I'm the only one that knows what you really are, and he'll expose him. And Caleb says something along the lines of, you can't kill your twin because that'll be like killing a piece of yourself. And I know Michael's not around very long, and I fear that he's gonna die. And I really like Michael and don't want him to die, but I don't really remember what happens with that.
I don't remember either, but I feel like that he does die.
So I feel like the sentiment of Caleb doesn't last very long.
Hmm.
um, but he tells Michael that he has a couple of hours to get the dress from Eve before he takes it into his own hands. Jack tells Livy he wants her to stay away from Caleb, and Jamal and Allison leave. Livy assures Jack that she loves him and she wants to help him. And he assures her that he loves her, and she's being needy, but she's happy that he's reassuring her. And she says
Hmm.
that's all she wanted to hear. And she tries to make love with him, but he pulls away. But once he assures her, they end up making love. And I'm like, I wonder if vampire sex is better than regular sex.
That's what I'm wondering.
um, Lucy is reading her cards and watching infomercials still. And she gets the stranger card and I think a baby boy
The,
card.
the baby boy, yeah.
So she's very puzzled by like why she keeps getting the stranger card and what is this baby boy.
Hmm.
And I think one of her predictions lines up with Madame Alicia's, that she's giving advice to somebody. And she's
Yeah.
like, oh my
So
god, they're like
yeah, she keeps saying like, oh, she should dump that zero and get with a hero, and then
Yeah.
Natalie says, oh, she should dump that zero and get to a hero.
I I love Lucy's kind of like segmented from the story at the moment.
Hmm.
Um but I love her scenes and it's always comical. which makes it hard for me to I feel like, to take notes because I feel like it's all for comedy, but there is little tidbits, but, like, it's almost like a setup for the next joke, and I enjoy the scene so much that I'm just like, "How do I take notes? Like, what's important and what's not?" So that's why if anybody's watching and you feel like we don't talk about Lucy enough, it's because I'm having trouble, like, taking notes on Lucy. But I
Well,
feel
then
like she's gonna
also like
be more in it, and it'll be easier.
yeah, well then also like this is Lucy has been like prominent in like about maybe 2 arcs.
Mhm.
So I think so it's nice that they give her a little break
Yeah,
in the vampire arc, give it to like and of course it's summer. So
yeah.
when in the
Oh, yeah.
summertime it used to be that like they'll focus on like younger characters.
Yeah.
So that's why we're getting mostly Livy and Jack and Allison and Jamal.
Mhm,
And and the other characters are kind of supporting characters,
mhm.
that's why that's why we're not talking about Lucy as much. So that's but Lucy does return a big way in later arcs, maybe even this one. I'm not sure.
Um, was Lucy always like this even on GH, like, as far as being, like, the universe and tarot cards and, like, because I don't remember her being like
I
this. I
think
wasn't
she
sure if
was like this. I think
she
she was
was?
like this. Like I was watching. That's what took me so long to get on. I was watching like a clip of and I forgot that Lucy and Luke were friends, but
Mm,
Alexis's first appearance with Luke,
okay,
and she was basically the same as she was, and this was like a few years out from Port Charles, but
okay,
she was basically the same as she was
okay.
with on Port Charles. Like she had the Duck Sigmund, she had which we haven't seen him in a little bit. Where's Sigmund?
Right. Um, I feel like maybe it was during the nurses' ball. I feel like in the GH episode, Sigmund got mentioned, and I was like, "Oh my god." Remember? I don't remember which arc it was. It was one of the past arcs where, Sigmund, like, attacked a dog. They said
Yeah, I think it was Time in the Bottle. No, she was at the new house at Time in the Bottle, right?
it was one of the arcs, and I just thought that was
Whenever she was
hysterical.
at the new house, I think it was I think it was either Fate, the end of Fate, or like Time in a Bottle.
Yeah. I've seen, like, earlier Lucy, well, she came out in the '80s, so it was probably, like, her mid-run, so maybe around 93, 94, and she seemed more
However, Lynn
business.
Herring left for a little bit to be on Days of Our Lives, so
It must have
there
been when
was a
she
break.
came back after Diaz, because
Mhm.
yeah, it was after Diaz, and she seemed more, like, not as comical, but more, like, and I don't even wanna say evil. What I saw, she was with, like, Damian Smith, and they were kind of
Mhm.
like she seemed more like a businesswoman, and not, like, kooky like she is on Portugal, so I was wondering if
Mhm.
this was just, like, a trait that they added for the show, but
I'm wondering if all that also had to do with like the change in production around '93. So remember around 90, 91, 92, I think, or even '93,
mhm.
it was Gloria Monty for a little bit, and then they switched over to Wendy Reach.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
who just is a part of like what is it? I think it's the Golden Panel Emmy thing. She just got honored for it. She just got honored in like the Golden Circle, I think, this past Friday.
Oh, really?
Wendy Reach did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Um, which spoiler for anybody who doesn't watch the Emmys, but it's on Paramount Plus. So,
Um,
um,
okay.
I think like they were when Herring came back. I think I wanted to say it might have been under Wendy Reach, but I'm not 100% sure. So they were still kind of redeveloping her character, and
Okay.
then when she came back, she wore a mask.
What? What do you mean? Like
So there was like this character I saw, like it was only like maybe like a 2-minute clip of like oh yeah, bye, like bye this character.
mhm.
Um, it was good to see you, and then she goes like behind a dumpster and she takes off like a mask, and it turned out that it was Lucy the entire time.
Really?
Yep.
Was it, like, a long-running character that was on while Lucy wasn't on the show?
I think that might have been the case. I think that
And
might have
it
been the
they
case.
didn't they try to
Might have
play it
been
off
like
like it
not a
was
long running
Lucy?
character because she was only off for like a good like close to a year. but it was like a
That's long enough. That's a long stretch,
yeah,
and it
long
was
enough,
supposed to be
yeah.
Lucy the whole time.
So this character was Lucy, and
Huh.
that's how she returns to Port Charles.
Wow. That's interesting. Wow. So masks are
Mhm.
not a last few
No,
decades thing.
no, no, not even on days, because like Roman had a mask. No, sorry, there was
Andre
a
had a
Roman
Roman
mask,
mask.
and it was
The
was it
the
Stefano
slasher?
or was it
No, it was
no,
Andre.
Andre? Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
and it was a Demira.
Yeah. Which I think at the time we didn't know was Andre because I think he was new and everybody was like, "Oh my god, it's Tony in a Roman mask." Like, so complicated. Back to Port Charles.
Back to Port Charles anyway.
Michael shows up at the cabin and he says that Ian and Eve made his brother very mad. And he
Mhm.
explains that the woman that Caleb was supposed to marry left him at the altar, and she was supposed to wear that dress. And Eve wonders if him being left at the altar is what made him violent.
Mm.
Um, Michael retrieves the dress, and Ian thinks that they should get out of there and go back to Port Charles in the morning. And Jack and Livy lay in bed in Afterglow, and we kind of hear like faint fireworks going off in the background to
Mhm.
remind us that it's 4th of July. Which I
And
didn't
they're
get
like,
to
"Oh,
mention. We're now in July. We finished June last time. Now we're in a new month.
uh-huh." Which if this was Fate, it would be a different book.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah.
I forgot about the books, the
Yeah, exactly.
chapters.
This
Um,
is a chapter, yep.
Lucy comes to see Kevin and tells him about her incredible active dreams, dream life she's been living. And Kevin was funny. He was like, "You love her. This is why you put up with it. Tell me about it." He's like, "I can't believe I'm feeding into this, but go ahead." She doesn't even remember. She's like, "I called you and you didn't call me back." And he's like, "You did." He's like, "You answered." And she's like, "Oh." She's like, "That's impossible. I was up all night." And he's like, she's like, "Okay, maybe I dozed a little." Eve and Ian return back to their apartment, and we now see that Eve has a little baby bump forming.
Yep.
She can't stop thinking about Michael and how angry Caleb got over the wedding dress. Gabby is at work daydreaming about Caleb coming to see her. Now, in a lot of these flashbacks, it seemed like we were seeing what we saw and then they kind of elaborated on it. So at this
Mhm.
point, I thought, "Ooh, maybe we're gonna see that they actually do like have sex." But no, it was literally just
Nope.
what we saw. He bit her. Um, Chris snaps her out of her daydream, and he says he needs her to work at the blood bank, and she says no problem with a smirk on her face. She hung- she's hungry.
He's hungry.
um, Frank and Karen question Gabby about what went on between her and Joe,
Mhm.
and she says it's none of their business. Oh, and maybe an episode before this, we should probably mention this. Joe's gone. He left.
Joe leaves, yeah.
Very like no pomp and circumstance. It just didn't work out between him and Gabby, and he goes to work in Appalachia,
Goes to work on Appalachia, yep.
where Eve was supposed to go when she was in hiding.
Yep, and that's another character from the beginning that's gone.
Is that it? Do we never see him again?
We do. I'm not
Oh, we
telling you
do.
when.
Is it
Yep,
this
I'm not
actor?
telling you when. Huh?
Is it this actor?
Yeah, yes, it's this actor. Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, at least we get to see him.
Yeah, but still, if I didn't know about the fact that like he returns, um, yeah, this is another actor from the beginning that's gone. So it's Julie, Jake, um, Joe. I feel like there's somebody. What's his name? Matt, the one that's in the
Wheelchair.
wheelchair.
Okay.
Ellen, Burgess is gone. So it's like 5 characters from the beginning that's gone.
So the
So
only
the ones
ones
we have left
left
are
are
Eve.
Eve.
Yeah, from the interns. Yeah. So the ones we have
Eating
left
Chris.
are Eve and Chris, I think. think there's and Karen. Though
Mm.
Karen was recast just like Joe was, so.
And didn't she leave for a little bit to go to rehab,
Hmm.
and then she came back as a recast?
No, I think I'll have to see. That's the thing. I have to double check and see if she left for rehab and then became a recast, or if it was just like one day it's Jennifer Hammond, the other day it's Marie Wilson.
Mm.
That's what
Hmm.
I'm leaning towards the latter. But I think that the whole rehab thing was under Marie Wilson.
Okay. So it played out on screen, the rehab?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Um, Gabby drops a file, and Frank wants to know what this is. And at first, I'm like, okay, what is this? Like, adding to the story. Apparently, she was like a teenage girl, and she must have wrote Caleb's name all over. Maybe even like Gabby loves Caleb and hearts and stuff like that. Caleb and Gabby for Abba.
Gabrielle Garza hyphen. What's Caleb's last name?
Morley, Morsi,
We
Morley.
don't know at this point.
Oh,
That's
we
the
don't know.
that's
We
the
don't
point.
know.
And she
Okay.
doesn't know at this point. So that's
Well, she just said out his name, so now she's obsessed. She's like Caleb,
Mhm.
Caleb, Caleb.
Caleb with a heart around it.
She just loves to say it. She loves how it rolls off her tongue. Caleb.
Caleb.
um, Jack tells Jamal he's going to drive a stake through Caleb's heart. Um, so when Karen's like questioning, like, what is this? What are you, a teenage girl, to Gabby? Um,
Hmm.
Gabby gets defensive, and she talks about how she feels when she's with Caleb and how they don't go out. He likes to come to her place. And so Karen surmises that he's married because he
Yep.
won't be seen in public with her. um, Sam comes to see Chris, and she wonders if he's seen Jack. She's worried that she might be a target, and she's a little ballsy. She's like, "Can you give me some money to get out of here?" Like, what? He's not just gonna give you money.
I
um,
mean, he likes her, but not like that.
right. Lucy keeps getting the stranger card and the baby boy card. The doorbell rings and Lucy answers, and Caleb's standing there.
Ooh.
And I didn't know why at first, but then I remembered Livy moved into Kevin's. Um, he says he's lost and wonders if he could use her phone. But she gets a weird vibe, so she's like, no, sorry. And she closes the door. Kevin wonders what's wrong, and she says the guy made her feel strange.
Hmm.
Caleb goes to see Gabby, and he thinks that she's been talking about him all around town. And she says just to Karen and Frank, and just about how special he makes her feel. He says she knows that there's someone else. So once again, reiterating, you're not the one.
Hmm.
And she angrily says Livy.
Livy.
And he says Olivia.
Olivia.
And he says he can't get to her because he hasn't been invited into the house. And she's being guarded, meaning by Lucy and Kevin.
Hmm.
Um, but he thinks that maybe Gabby could be the one to lure her out. So Gabby shows up at Kevin's and says she needs to speak to Livy. And he invites her in, and Caleb hides and smiles. But prior to her showing up, Kevin got a phone call that he needed to like go talk somebody off a ledge. Like there was this whole emergency, but he said it so nonchalant, like it's just something he does on a regular basis.
Oh, I just need to talk to somebody off the ledge.
Like,
And I thought it was gonna be like a medical, like a not medical, like a medical story of the week.
mhm,
But it turns out we don't see it. So.
right. And we've seen it in the past, but
Hmm.
it's almost I I would assume that that is something that maybe therapists have to do, but he made it seem like, oh, it's just, oh, it's this week's suicide attempt. I'm just gonna go fix this and I'll be back for
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that's how therapists really feel, or
dinner.
psychiatrists or psychologists really feel.
I guess so,
Like,
especially if you're on
after
call.
several years, they're just like, "Oh, okay, let me just talk this person off the ledge," you know?
It almost dehumanizes the patient, though, just to be like, "Oh, yeah,
It
I got
really does, yeah.
nothing." But I guess, like you said, once you've been doing it for a while, it's just kind of old hat.
Mhm.
Um, where am I? Oh, so Sam asks wait, I already said this. Sam asks Chris for money. Um, she even kinda offers to sleep with him. She says, "You've been checking out my body since I came off the elevator."
Yeah.
But at first, I didn't get the vibe that she was offering to sleep with him for the money,
Mhm.
but he says, "Come with me," and he, like, basically brings her out to, like, an alley. Um, and she's like, "I've never done this before." She's like, "I really need the cash," and he's like, "I'm not gonna pay you to have sex." Um, but he does wanna talk with her. So he says
Mhm.
to meet me in the recovery room in a few hours. The bar, not the hospital.
At the hospital, yep.
And, Jamal thinks if Jack crosses over the line of killing somebody that he can never be with Livy.
Mhm.
And they're in, I guess, Jamal's apartment at this point. And he knocks Jamal out and leaves, and he runs into Sam outside, having just
Mm.
Chris having just left her. So now she's like freaked out. So here I was like, okay, all right, this is the end of Sam.
There we go.
No such luck. At
Nah.
least not yet. Um, Eve, Ian, and Karen are rolling a sheeted machine that's for Eve's sonogram.
Mhm.
And I got like flashbacks. I thought it was Nelly. It looked like Nelly's shape. I was like, this seems familiar. I don't like this.
I don't like this.
um, I can never remember that like recurring nurse's name that's always there.
Colleen.
Colleen. All right. She catches them. I don't know why it's a secret because they're asking for like a room. They know she knows she's pregnant. And she's like, "Oh, let me know when you find out if it's a boy or girl." So she basically calls them out on it,
Yeah.
and tells them that there's a free room for them to take to do the sonogram. Um,
Yeah, and Colleen's been there since the beginning. I have been watching, like, the first year of Port Charles,
mhm,
along with watching this Tainted Love,
mhm.
and, Colleen is there very early too, like, when the interns are
Really?
first making their rounds and stuff like that, yeah.
You know what's funny? I don't know why this jogged my memory for this, but I tried watching Passions from the beginning, and the actress that ends up playing Beth is on in like the first couple of months.
Mhm.
But then I guess she disappears for a little bit, and then they bring her back on as the Beth that everybody knows, the crazy Beth.
Yes. Yeah, she ran the book cafe, and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
Beth runs the book cafe. Who's with Louise?"
yeah, but I remember like watching that, and I was like, "Wow, Beth was on this early."
Mhm.
But James Riley was good for that. He had a twist in mind, but he was good for like planting seeds for things that would happen later on.
Yeah.
Um, Lucy gets a call from Madame Alicia and wants to meet her in person at the recovery room, the bar, not the restaurant, not the
The
not the hospital.
bar, not the
um,
hospital.
but it was a funny conversation because at first, Madame Alicia, we don't hear her, but we hear Lucy's reaction. She's like, what? She's like, I know it's like $1.99 a minute. She's like, but that's not what this is. Like, and then I was like, why would Madame Alicia just be so willing to meet somebody that's just like, no, like I had the same vibe as you, like we connected. Like I'd be like, okay, crazy.
Good thing Lucy is about that life,
Right.
so
But before she leaves, Gabby apologized to Lucy for her performance at the nurses' ball.
mhm.
And she says, must have been the shots of tequila I took for courage. And
We all know what it is.
Lucy forgives her. She's like, I've had a few moments of my own over the years at the nurses' ball. Lucy leaves. Livy comes downstairs, and Gabby says she came to return something of hers that she found at the nurses' ball. Livy says it's not hers, and Gabby immediately starts talking about the man she's obsessed with, talking about how he makes her feel, his blue eyes, and I'm like, Does Caleb have blue
Does he
eyes?
have blue eyes? That's what. Next scene he's in, I'm like,
Right? Me too. And then I started thinking about like the promos and like how they just show his eyes. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're not blue. I don't think they're
like
blue.
maybe they're tinted. Maybe because of the red tint. That's why we don't see that they're blue. But
Maybe that was just something to throw Livy off. I don't know.
mm-hmm.
Um, but Livy starts saying like, "Oh, that's how Jack makes me feel," and she's like, "No, that's not the same." um, Jamal regains consciousness and says he can't let Jack kill anybody. He hears Sam scream and he runs outside. He finds Jack, and we find out that Sam ran off. He says he wanted to kill her, but he couldn't.
And we're
And
like, damn.
Jamal says, "You don't want to be like Caleb." Jack thinks that the only way he'll stand a chance against Caleb is if he drinks. Liv. Oh, Gabby continues to describe how electrifying Caleb makes her feel without saying Caleb. And Livy starts having flashbacks to every time she's coming contact with Caleb.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Yeah, I know what you mean or what you're describing." Michael finds Caleb in his candlelit cave. So I guess the bed's back. I didn't see the bed, but I'm assuming it's back.
Yeah.
Caleb tells Michael he's about to have his own family. Ian and Eve have the sonogram, and they hear the baby's heartbeat. Jamal and Jack go back to the occult shop and start looking for answers. Every book they read seems to like contradict the other book, so they can't find like a consistent through line for vampires. Michael tells Caleb that vampires can't procreate, at least not in the normal sense of having children.
Yeah.
And Caleb informs him he intends to have Eve's child.
Ooh.
So now I remembered Caleb being connected to Eve somehow with the baby, and I didn't remember why, but now there's my answer. He just wants the baby. I thought the baby was like some kind of like, I don't know,
Evil sentient baby.
yeah, like almost like possessed or a baby vampire. I wasn't sure if it was like a mystical pregnancy, but it's not. It's Ian's.
Yeah, they threw that same curveball in Days of Our Lives with the Devil Possession Part 2.
With Sierra.
Yeah, with Sierra and Ben.
Yeah. Not to go on a Days tangent, did we ever find out why they wanted the baby? Like,
I forgot. If I knew, I forgot.
We find out that the baby's a boy, so that lines up with Lucy's tarot cards, the baby boy tarot card.
Yeah, and Ian kept saying like, "Oh, she looks great. She's perfect." Like
You know why, right? He probably wanted to name it Grania or Granada, whatever.
Yeah.
So when he found out it was a boy, I was like, that's why he wanted to name it Grania. Jamal reads, besides the thirst for blood, the thing that drives a vampire is its need for a coven. And Jack thinks that that's what Caleb is trying to do. Jack makes Jamal promise once they destroy Caleb that he'll destroy him next. And Livy makes her way to the cave, and Caleb says he's been waiting for her. And that's how the week ends. It was exciting. I love this week. I kind of hope like the rest of the art continues this pace, because it's like every episode I'm like, oh, I can't wait to start the next one. I really don't know what to expect except for like, I guess, Caleb and Livy's wedding, because I remember her being in the wedding dress. So I assume that they go through with the wedding. I'm pretty sure I remember that. Um, and I guess because she's gonna be under her spell, she's gonna break Jack's heart
Mhm.
and kind of be like, "No, Caleb's the one for me." Kind of like how Gabby's acting.
Yeah.
Um, but we now know that everybody, well, not everybody, Jamal and Jack know at this point that he's a vampire. So they're gonna know that she's under a spell.
Mhm.
I'm just guesstimating. I'm not talking.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think?
I'm thinking the same lines as you. I'm curious as to because I actually forgot now I'm forgetting how the arc ends, and I'm forgetting all of Tempted. Excuse me, Tempted. So I'm wondering like if this rolls into Tempted, and we get like this like nice little vampire fall storyline that unfortunately gets cut off by real life events. Um,
Yeah,
which is why I don't remember a lot of Tempted because I had to go to school and
yeah.
you know for 9/11 happened so I'm wondering like and I'm forgetting how it ends but I'm liking I know bits and pieces of it.
I
uh
remember the whole like last 5 minutes of how it ends. Like I vividly remember it.
yeah,
But I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not gonna say
no,
anything.
that's fine.
And like you, I think I may have started Tempted, and then real life stuff happened. And then I think I mentioned on the last podcast or sometime I must have been off maybe for Thanksgiving because I remember watching the end of Tempted live. So I also
Mhm.
remember how Tempted ends. I just don't remember how we get there. What's the in between?
Yeah,
um, but yeah, this would have been like the peak of my love for vampires, honestly. Like I was watching
yeah.
Buffy every week, sometimes on repeat because I would record it.
Mhm.
um, not to like Well, yeah. So when Sarah Michelle Gellar made like that appearance on All My Children when it was ending, and she was
Uh-huh.
like, "I was seeing vampires before it was trendy." I was like, "I love vampires before it was trendy." That was my favorite. I loved it.
I love that
But
like the care cameo appearance and
she's like, "American Kid's daughter, American Kid's daughter."
yeah, and then I do remember the end of now I'm not sure if I remember the end of Tainted or I remember the end of Tempted. That's the thing. I don't remember which arc it is, but I remember something huge happens
Yeah.
at the end of at least one of those arcs.
So I mentioned offline there was no promos for this week,
Mhm.
um, like SoapNet usually makes. But in the suggested videos that came up, I guess when you leave it on, it plays automatically for a few seconds.
Mhm.
I don't know when this happens. I don't know what arc it is, but Caleb and Livy are there. Vampires are out and about. And she was like straddling Ian Buchanan, with who I forgot was even on the show.
I forgot about that too.
And she got caught by Caleb. And I'm like, what is this? Is this towards the end? When is this happen? And I was like, I don't want to be spoiled. So I just like went down.
It would have to have been like Naked Eyes and Over. Naked Eyes and Over, that's when the vampires come back. So,
Okay. Okay. But yeah, I was just, and then like I saw, I don't even know the actor's name, but he was on Another World. Um, he was with Rachel.
Charles Keaton.
Yes, him. I saw him come up in a suggested video, but it was 14 to Love, so we're actually gonna see him in this arc.
Oh, yay.
I don't know what role he plays. I don't know if he's evil. He always scared me, honestly. Like before I even
No, he
watched
did too. Him and Billy Clyde Tuttle scared me
Soap.
when I was a kid. Him and Billy Clyde Tuttle. My mom watched Another World and All My
Mhm.
Children. And freaking Carl Hutchins and Billy Clyde Tuttle scared the crap out of me. And
I wasn't even
people are
watching.
probably gonna be like, "Oh, how can Billy Clyde Tuttle scare the crap out of you?" So I rewatched All My Children from that time period when I would have been watching,
Uh,
and it's not the fact that like, yes, he is a lovable character at times, but in a quick snap, Billy Clyde Tuttle will mess your shit up. Like,
yeah, I wasn't even watching Soap. Like I must, but I remember being a kid, and when my grandmother would watch Another World, I remember seeing Carl Hutchins, and I was like, I don't know, something about him creeped me out. I don't know if
Mhm.
I would see scenes where he was being evil or doing bad things, but I was like, "This guy's scary. I don't know what you're watching."
The fact that Kathleen McKinnon faked her death, like, because of him, like, that should tell you something.
But do you have anything else to add on Tainted Love this week?
Nope, I'm a little disappointed there wasn't a promo, so how are we gonna promote this? We'll figure it out.
We'll just have to show pictures of us.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you for joining us for another edition of Port Charles Tainted Love. As always, you can find us on all the socials at Queers and Soaps. And until next time, have a great week. Bye.
Bye.